So our next lesson would be about cloud security assessments and tools. Now, welcome to Cloud Security Assessments and Tools Practice. Now, in this module, it provides us with instruction and devices needed to develop your hands-on skills. Now, as a cloud security specialist, a crucial part of your skill set would be the ability to detect software vulnerabilities in an infrastructure. Now, as technology advances, there has been a shift in the way in which cyber attacks are conducted. Now, with companies moving more and more secure, more and more resources moving to cloud service providers or making use of the hosted infrastructures for specific web applications, it has become crucial that these applications are secure to prevent exploits from cybersecurity criminals. Now, in cloud environments, you may choose to perform a network based scan, which allows you to easily scan an entire network from a singular host to discover potential risk, or potentially run an agent based scan, which instead can be broken up and run on many different hosts, provided that an agent has been installed. Now, another method of ensuring that updates and patching completes as smoothly as possible is by implementing scheduled updates. When enabled, scheduling different updates will stop devices updating automatically or not at all and allow administrators to better manage the risk imposed by a particular update. So in this lab, the Damn Vulnerable Web Application, or DVWA, will be used to demonstrate how vulnerabilities can be detected by using a software vulnerability scanner. Now, this can also be used in public infrastructure such as Azure. So in this module, we'll have the following exercises. It will be conducting a software vulnerability scan using Alien Vault as well as Nessus. And after completing this module, we should be able to define and describe the cloud security considerations, and we should be able to conduct software vulnerability scan using Alien Vault and Nessus. So for exercise number 1, which is conducting a software vulnerability scan using Alien Vault. In this exercise, a software vulnerability scan will be conducted on the Damn Vulnerable Web Application, or DVWA, using a software vulnerability scanner. So some cloud security considerations would be the risk register. So a risk register is an internally kept process document that outlines and documents different risks that could affect a cloud environment at any time. So typically, these registers cover specific risk alongside who would be affected. So the overall threat it would place on an infrastructure, any standards that require a certain risk to be protected against, and potential treatment options. And this type of documentation is key when planning to mitigate risk in many different types of environments and would form part of an incident response plan. Another consideration would be security patches and application. So security patching is a vital part of ensuring high security posture of an infrastructure. And it is imperative to ensure that resources are not susceptible to attacks from third-party malicious actors and newly discovered security threats, known as zero-day exploits. You can immediately mitigate this by ensuring that signature updates are pushed through to certain subscription-based software such as antivirus, which are provided as long as a valid subscription to that service is maintained. Now, depending on how large a potential patch is and the impact it could have on an infrastructure, it could be more prudent to use hot fixes, which aim at solving smaller issues on a less permanent basis, but can be rolled out at much sooner than full patches. You could also implement virtual patches in place of vendor-provided patches to bridge the gap of time between an exploit being discovered and a patch rolling out, which, depending on the vendor, could take an indeterminate amount of time. Now, these updates can also be balled together into an update package containing several different fixes at once, known as a rollup. Now, these patches should also be prioritized so that more important security flaws and vulnerabilities are patched much quicker than lower priority patches. Lastly, another method of ensuring that updates and patching completes as smoothly as possible is by implementing scheduled updates. When enabled, scheduling different updates will stop devices updating automatically or not at all and allow administrators to better manage the risk imposed by a particular update. Another thing to consider would be default accounts. Now, a huge security consideration is disabling and replacing default accounts that may already exist as part of resources being built inside an infrastructure. Due to the general nature of the naming conventions used, such as administrator or root, these accounts are prime candidates for attackers looking to exploit a system of infrastructure. Now, in particular, any account with administrator permissions should be retired and replaced with administrator permissions as soon as possible to deny a malicious actor any extra information. This includes the default administrator accounts created as part of a cloud resources, such as Azure Virtual Machines. We should also consider the impacts of security tools. Now, it should be carefully considered which tools you should implement in any given environment. Now, due to several factors, including does implementing this tool affect the general availability of resources, and are there any budgetary concerns? How much time would be required to test effectively? And how would we apply the results gathered by these tools? Now, it's important to consider that proper preparation is key to implementing an effective security solution. Now, continuous monitoring should also be considered from the outset, as testing will need to be considered regularly depending on the level of risk with a specific infrastructure. And lastly, cloud service models on security implementation. Now, different cloud service models have different security and considerations compared to their counterparts and require a varying level of cloud user planning. Now, some of these considerations include from infrastructure as service, we should check. Considering the securing components such as SLA issues, utility computing, cloud software, and networking attacks, as well as general issues such as data leakage, logging, and access control. When it comes to platform as a service, we should consider the access and authorization, the distributed apps, the storage security, and data protection. We should also consider to secure applications, secure users, and secure access. Now, as noted from the examples, infrastructure as a service models typically require much more investment and time from cloud users to implement proper security. And SaaS requires the least to most elements being maintained directly by the provider. Now, for our first task, we will verify that DVWA is running using AlienVault. So the Damn Vulnerable Web application is a free, open source application that can be used by security professionals to practice and enhance their skill set in a secure legal infrastructure. So in this task, the DVWA application will be started to ensure that it will be accessible to conduct the software vulnerability scan. So let's open this machine, TLab Win 10. So from the start menu, we have to select the XAMPP application. Now the XAMPP application is used to host an Apache web application on Windows and Linux operating systems. This application also configures the necessary MySQL database for the installation. Now in the infrastructure, the application has already been configured to run the DVWA. So in the XAMPP control panel, in the Actions column, select Start for the following services. So let's start the Apache and MySQL. So the Apache and MySQL services need to run for the DVWA to be accessible. So let's minimize the control panel. After starting the specific services, it can be seen which specific ports are open for the DVWA to function. Now port 80 and 443 are used for web application traffic on the network, where port 80 uses the HTTP protocol and port 443 uses the HTTPS protocol. Now the HTTPS protocol is more secure as it encrypts the network, whereas the HTTP protocol does not encrypt the traffic. Now from the taskbar, let's open the Microsoft Edge and navigate to the following website. So let's type in HTTP 192.168.0.4/DVWA. Now let's use the following credentials for username, and for password, it's password. So if you ever see a pop-up window for Microsoft Edge, select Never. Now in the DVWA web application, select the DVWA security in the left-hand side pane. Now on the DVWA security page, change the security level to low and click Submit. Let's click Low, Submit. So the DVWA web application has several security levels. Now these levels can be changed depending on the type of security exercises that needs to be conducted. So we have low, medium, high, and impossible. But right now we'll select low. Now for our second task, we have to conduct a software vulnerability scan using AlienVault. Now in this task, a software vulnerability scan will be conducted on DVWA using AlienVault. Now AlienVault is free, open source security information and event management or SIEM tool. Now AlienVault can be used to detect software vulnerabilities in web applications. Now these detected vulnerabilities need to be rectified by the cloud security professional to ensure the environment is secure from exploits and potential data breaches. Now AlienVault will be accessed through a local browser remotely, accessing the managing interface. So let's power on this machine, PLADPDM01 and PLAB AlienVault. Let's allow at least 2 minutes to pass before continuing. This ensures enough time has been provided for PLAB AlienVault, that machine, to complete its boot cycle. This is important as step 3 uses the address, which is for this machine. Alright, let's connect to this machine first. Now PLAB DBM01. Now in the taskbar, let's open Firefox and let's navigate to this URL. That's 192.168.0.6. Okay, so in the warning potential security risk ahead tab of Firefox, select advanced. So an error message displays that the connection is not secure. This message can be safely ignored as the website uses a self-signed web certificate. In a production environment, a third-party certificate will be installed to ensure the website can be accessed securely. In Firefox, select accept the risk and continue. Now let's enter the following. Now, in the dashboard of the Alien Vault website, hover over Environment and select Vulnerabilities. Now, the Alien Vault SIEM application can be used for several different types of vulnerability scans. For this particular exercise, a software vulnerability scan will be conducted. Now, on the Vulnerabilities window, select Scan Jobs. And in the Scan Jobs window, select New Scan Job. Now, in the Create Scan pop-up window, let's add the following name to the job name. Now, in the Type Here to Search Assets field, enter the following: 192.168.0.4. Now select Save. Now the specific IP address that was entered is the previous machine that we were working on, which hosts the DVWA application. Now select the newly created PLAB vulnerable scan, and this will highlight the scan job in blue. You may need to select a different tab such as Threat Database and then click back onto the Scan Jobs tab for the scan to start. Let me check that. It's still scheduled. Okay, so once the scan job starts, it may take up to 15 minutes to complete. Let's just wait for the scan to be finished. Okay, now after the scan has been completed, we can select the view report, which is shown as a PDF icon on the action column. So this one, view report. Now there are several options available in the action column that you can explore for a better understanding of how to use Alien Vault. Okay, so your report will appear in a separate tab. After the vulnerability scan has been conducted, a report is automatically generated to display all the vulnerabilities that were detected on the Damn Vulnerable Web Application, or DVWA. Now, this specific report can be used by cloud security professionals to rectify the newly discovered vulnerabilities. In the report, suggested rectification of the vulnerabilities is also generated. Now keep the XAMPP control panel open as you'll be using this in the next exercise. So for exercise number 2, it will be conducting a software vulnerability scan using Nessus. Now in this exercise, the Nessus vulnerability scanner will be used to conduct a software vulnerability scan on the Damn Vulnerable Web Application. Now the free trial version has been installed in the lab environment for this specific exercise. Now other paid-for versions of the Nessus application are available for production environments. Now for our first task, conduct a software vulnerability scan using Nessus. Nessus is a vulnerability scanner that can be used to scan web applications for software vulnerabilities. Now a free trial version of the application is available to cloud security professionals, which can be used to test the functionality of a software application. Now, in this task, the Damn Vulnerable Web Application will be scanned for software vulnerabilities using the Nessus Vulnerability Scanner. So let's go back to PLAB Win 10. Note that the XAMPP control panel is still open from the previous exercise. Now, if the services are not running on the exercise, or the exercise was started before exercise 1 was completed, please repeat task 1 from exercise 1 before carrying on with this exercise. Now make sure your Microsoft Edge browser is open, and reopen the Edge by clicking the icon on the taskbar. Go to this. Let's go to localhost 8834. So in the privacy error window, select Advanced. So an error message displays that the connection is not secure. This message can be safely ignored as the website uses a self-signed web certificate. Now, in a production environment, a third-party certificate will be installed to ensure the website can be accessed securely. Now, in the privacy error window, select Continue to localhost and save. And let's enter the following credentials. In the Nessus web interface, scroll to the right and select New Scan. Once signed in, New Scan. Now in the scanner window, select Web Application Tests. Select Web Application Test here. Now in this window, complete the following fields and click Save. So let's enter the name, and our target is 192.168.68.0.4. The specific IP address that was added in the targets field is that of the PLAB Win10 machine, which hosts the DVWA application. Let's click Save. Now in the My Scans window, select the newly created PLAB vulnerable scan. My scans can be found from the folder menu on the left-hand side. Now scroll to the right of the web page and select Launch. Now please allow Nessus time to complete the scan. This typically takes around 5 minutes. Alright, so once the scan has been completed, just scroll to the right and click the report menu and select HTML. Your results may be different from what is shown in the screenshots here. Now in the Generate HTML Report pop-up window, select Generate Report. The report will start to download and appear at the bottom of the screen. Now once completed, click the Open File and select the option to open in Microsoft Edge. Now, as you can see in the report, Nessus has detected multiple vulnerabilities, the majority of these being set under the Info tab. Jordy. Oh, it's medium. Typically, you would, of course, hope to see little, potentially a few low or medium risk vulnerabilities, or no errors in the report. Now, if there are preventable vulnerabilities detected, you can then use this to escalate to the correct channel inside an organization and review these in more detail for potential security fixes. Now select Show Details in the newly opened Microsoft Edge tab. And you will see the list of all the reports. Lastly, let's close Microsoft Edge. And now we've completed the cloud security assessments and tools.